Welcome everyone to my channel. Today we're going to talk about how to move through grief. And of course that's very appropriate given what we're working with in this era. 400,000 deaths. And connected to those deaths are family, loved ones, co-workers, friends, all of us feeling that deep pain of loss and grief. So today I want to work on how do we move through this? How do we cope with this so that we can keep walking and moving and we don't come out the other side of this more traumatized than possibly we already are. So, what are the goals here? The goals are how do I come to terms with and accept my loss? Let myself experience the deep pain that I am going to experience. Take care of myself during that pain, and then be able to move on, recalibrate, and reorganize my life in a new way, because that's what it takes to get through grief. So let's talk about what happens. When we first learn of our loss, we approach it with disbelief and shock. Many of us feel numb and feel like we're walking through a dream, but really we're walking through a nightmare. As we're walking through that, I believe that our nervous system has put us into shock as a way to defend us, because it keeps us numb in the beginning to be able to do those first steps in that first week or two of what we need to do. Now, after that begins to thaw out, the reality of what happens hits us. And often it first hits us in a flush of a tidal wave of anger and denial. And this simply cannot be. Now look what's happening to me. I'm holding my hands. I'm angry. I'm bargaining. God, how could you let this happen? Universe, government, how could you let this happen? And we feel it in our chests, and we're feeling the need to express that anger. We just are feeling all kinds of emotions. Also, what comes in this time is a sense of regret. Often we feel bad about things we did or we didn't do, and that gets all mixed up in this. The real challenge of this time is to allow ourselves to experience that pain. The fact is, it's one of the worst pains we'll ever experience. And the other fact is that we are all going to experience the pain of loss, because loss is part of life, and all of us who are alive are going to die. So, how do we do this? An energy is starting to come into your body, and there's an energy of movement, and that's often what we want to do. And again, we're angry. How could this happen? So we say that. Notice the deepening of my voice. Let it come out. Tell people that you're angry, because we know that we are. You know, if you see your fists balled up, maybe you're needing to just push them out and punch. Scream to the heavens. You know, I worked with a woman one time who was teaching how to express deep anger that you will feel. And she calls it acting like a cougar. And so she took her mouth and she went, "Arr!" Now that may seem silly, but now I've done it on YouTube, and so there it is. But that anger lets out of your throat that guttural anger, that guttural deep feeling of what you're experiencing. Let yourself move through that. And as you bargain, again, one of the big things we have to come to is that there is no bargaining anymore. It happened. It's over. Now notice I have my hands in an upright position. So another ways that we move through moving toward acceptance is holding our hands open to the universe on our laps and taking a breath and saying, yes, yes. And then the tsunami of anger may come over that, and let yourself express it. Another thing we want to do when we're feeling anger and all of that is to feel powerful. So often I talk about people, notice your posture, having your shoulders back, looking straight ahead of another person, feeling that. Your chest opens. You feel strength in your core, which keeps us powerful. I am powerful. I can do things. And what I always hope for toward the end of grief is this anger and this forward motion helps us move toward actually doing things, either for other people or for ourselves, that will help make our situation better. Now we know that the regret is there. We are often beating ourselves up for years. And that is what can turn grief, which is hard enough itself, into what we call as therapists complicated grief. So you really want to address that. You want to notice that. See what's going on in your mind. Observe it. This is called mindfulness. And mindfulness is not always about meditation. It's about noticing, observing how my thoughts are going by. I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have done that. How bad I was. And of course, the regret that comes with it and the shame just really just weights us down and keeps us from doing many things that we really want to or need to, or that our loved one would want us to do. And so that's one way of dealing with this, is really thinking about your loved one. And as you're beating yourself up and you're regretting, allow yourself to think about what they would say to you at this point in time, and how they love you. And the reason you missed them so much is because you do have a deep caring and love, and they for you. They do not want you to beat yourself up. They want you to be able to move on and live life. So having those images are really, really important, and trying to remember that. Often treating yourself. Now remember, we're also talking about developing a relationship with yourself, like I did in the loneliness video. So observe yourself and have self-compassion. Approach yourself with curiosity about what others would say and what you would say to a friend. You did your best. It's over. Or, what did I learn from this? Maybe I've learned I want to make more use of every single moment and live in each moment of each day. So really addressing that regret with self-compassion and remembering how that person wants you to think. Now we know as the anger subsides, and of course it will come and go throughout this process, we move into a deep, deep sadness and grief and loneliness. And again, notice it just bears us down. Now this is where the self-comfort comes in, and allowing yourself to get comfort from other people. It really is important to try to reach out, even if you don't want to. Get on a Zoom lunch with somebody. Even in Minnesota, go out for a socially distanced walk. Or if you're in California or Florida, it'll be much nicer. But let yourself be around people to hear their comforting voices and comforting words. But the thing you want to do is notice and validate how sad you are. You feel it in your chest. You feel it in your stomach. you're down. So again, as I've said on some other videos, you start to hug yourself, feel that warmth. Or you take a shawl like I have and wrap it around yourself. And then move back and forth, comforting. And we know that bilateral movement calms our nervous system. And so it helps us feel that comfort. Brew a cup of tea. If you like scents or lavender or something like that, smell that. Have a candle. And man, go out into your man cave, whether that's your car or your garage. Be alone and where you feel like you can cry and sob. And it's important to sob. Those tears, let them fall and fall. And you know they will. And as they fall, comfort yourself. Bake some cookies and smell the cookies. Or if you're like me, who can't bake, boil some cinnamon water and make it smell good and make it smell like you're baking cookies. One thing about scent is it goes directly into our nervous system so that it helps us calm. So this self-compassion, self-soothing, and self-care is so important. While you're also noticing, I am so sad. Touch your stomach. Touch your chest and your stomach together. We know that breathing with a hand on our chest and a hand on our stomach is often stabilizing. I encourage you to use this when you're angry too, and I'm telling you to sit up straight and really feel that. But the biggest thing you can do is to meet your crying with comfort. When you get depressed and you don't feel like you can move, and you will get that way. If you can't move, and if you are going to stay in bed, then stay in bed. Be mindful, be aware of the covers on you and how comfortable you feel, and feel the comforting of the bed and the softness or the hardness. But if you get caught in your racing emotions, that's the time when you really want to get up, get moving, run in place. Notice what I'm doing. I'm running in place. My feet, my hands, I'm getting my system moving. I'm getting tension. And just raise your hands up. And just to the spirit and the energy of the universe. Your chest is going to fall. You are going to do it, and then move into the hug. And then bending down and bowing. And breathing in and coming up. And bending down and bowing again to yourself and up again. And then your arms going up like this. And then comforting yourself. And then just really swaying back and forth. Knowing that bilateral movements really calm our amygdala, where so much of our agitation comes from. Bending down helps us get a little more energy. And so bend down and come up again. So remember, it's about mindful awareness of yourself. Pay attention to what's going on in your mind. Put it on a whiteboard and look at it outside of you. Try to separate it. Validate it. Embrace it. Don't try to avoid your feelings, because a lot of times what that does is it just makes us more anxious or leads us to do things that we don't want to do. And as I said in the loneliness tape, we are all grieving together. So as you open your hands and trying to radically acknowledge and accept the truth, and breathing in and out, just feel the energy and the presence of all of those who are grieving around you. Now, the last step of getting through grief is really beginning to reconfigure your life, to get moving again. And how do I live my life without this person? You know, I may have to make smaller meals. I may want to do meals with other people. And again, I want you to try to learn to use FaceTime and Zoom during this time. Those connections are so important. Now, I talk a lot about self-connection, but please use them. But get going. Find, did you want to do art at one time? Are there some books that you want to read? Did you want to get into running? What is it that you would like to move forward? A lot of people give to others in terms of helping them through this hard time. Now, if you're stuck and you feel like you can't feel, please reach out to a mental health professional. There's many centers for grief and loss throughout the country that are running groups. I really encourage you to be part of a group who's listening to you and understands and can empathize with you about what you're feeling. Most of us can empathize. I know I do. The fact is, I've also experienced horrible loss and have spent time trying not to experience it. And all it did was make me miserable and depressed and bitter. We can go that way, but it's not what's health-giving for us. So you have a choice. You have a choice to take care of yourself. Be aware of yourself. Remembering some of the movements I did today. Remember the comforting with the 5 senses, scent, touch, what you're looking at. Let yourself grieve, validate it, hold yourself, rub your heart. And you will get through this. We're all going to get through this. And I just thank you for joining me today and listening to me today. And I hope that this was helpful. Take care, and I'll see you again.